Guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about my fandom history. You guys asked for this, so you can't bully me for this, just so we're on the same page. You cannot come for me for the stuff I've been a part of over the years. It's not as bad as I make it out to see, but I'm just saying you can't. You asked for it. I asked you guys on Instagram what you wanted to see. You said fandoms. You're getting fandoms. So I've broken up my fandom history into 3 parts. I have my pre-Tumblr era, my Tumblr era, and my post-Tumblr era. The reason I kind of broke it up is because the way that I've interacted with fandom and community in the fandoms varies from different stages, obviously. So I figured I might as well break it up and kind of explain them, and then you can get a better picture of what I was doing, where I was at during my time in these fandoms. So obviously the first era of fandom I'm going to be talking about is my pre-Tumblr era. This started in about, 2007, maybe earlier. I can't really remember anything before 2007, so we'll say it's then. And during this time, there wasn't a whole ton of social media. Smartphones weren't really a thing. No apps, just websites. So I wasn't really on any social media at the time. The main places I was looking at for fandom related content was YouTube, fanfiction.net, and sometimes LiveJournal, but not a ton. So that's primarily where I was looking. So I was looking at fan edits and fan videos, fan fiction, compilations of fan art, stuff like that. The first fandom I can remember being in, this was about 2007 to 2009-ish, was the Warrior Cats fandom, which, oh my gosh, absolutely crazy that it was trending on Twitter not that long ago. I didn't know that was still a thing. I'm not saying that I stopped reading it and I figured everybody stopped reading it when I did. No, I just genuinely thought it wasn't a series that was ongoing that had a super active fan base. But apparently it does, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me. 10-year-old me would have lost her mind over the stuff that you guys are talking about on Twitter. Really, really crazy. So yeah, I was really into that. My big thing with Warriors was the YouTube community and the animation series and the animation videos that everybody was making at the time for this fandom. I loved them and I spent way more time on looking at them than I should have. The next fandom I was a part of was, it was around the same time, roughly. It was 2008 to 2010 is when I stopped being overly obsessed, but I'm still super into it now. And that is Cats the Musical. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna make a whole separate video about Cats the Musical and what it means to me on a personal level, because that show has done so much more for me than anything else, any other media that I've ever consumed in my life. But yeah, I was really big into Cats 2008, 2010. Like I said, around this time, I wasn't super involved in community. For Cats, I was a part of a fan forum, but other than that, it was mainly YouTube videos, some LiveJournal stuff, but nothing more than that. And then after my Cats obsession kind of died down is when my weeb phase really kicked into gear. I actually found anime through Cats, which, like I said, Cats has done more for me as a person than anything else in my life. I found anime through Cats, searching up things like Cat Girl, came across Cat Girls anime. Primarily, the first anime I came across was Tokyo Mew Mew. This was 2009, and this carried until probably 2012 when I went into high school. So I obsessed. I only drew anime. I brought manga to school. I watched anime on my tiny slider phone, hiding in my bed so my mom didn't know. That's how I watched the entirety of DN Angel. Which, great show. I love it. But I watched it on a screen that was that big. But yeah, I loved anime. Primarily the ones that I was obsessed with at this time were Tokyo Mew Mew, Ouran High School Host Club, Shigokara, the first season of Black Butler, when it first came out, before it was dubbed and everything. That was my huge weeb phase. And it kind of died down, obviously not completely, because if you can see behind me, my wall is covered in anime art. So personal growth who. So that was a huge chunk of time right there that I spent just generally obsessed. I'm not gonna go through and talk about every like anime fandom I was a part of, because there were like just a lot of little ones where I was like obsessed for a couple months or like whatever. And yeah, so again, this was fanfiction.net, LiveJournal, YouTube. I don't know, I probably talked about it on like Neopets. I wasn't like, before I was on Tumblr, there wasn't a lot of me seeking out community. I just kind of like liked what I liked on my own and looked for content on my own and didn't really reach out to anyone. So the end of 2012 is when I made my Tumblr. So that brings us to my Tumblr era of fandom. This was a change. This was like record breaking. Talking about being in anime, I got into Italia around 2008. No, it had to have been 2009, 2010. Not earlier than that. But I got super into it, and a lot of the content creators on like YouTube and the cosplayers were talking about Tumblr. So I was like, damn, should get me a Tumblr. So I did. And that just like opened the door to the fandom experience. Now this is like, I made my Tumblr December of 2011. So this is like 2012 era Tumblr. We are talking just fandom galore. The fandom blogs were at war with the hipster blogs. Oh boy. Tumblr was a different experience back then. It was like the escape for all the like nerdy kids, all the geeky kids who didn't have anybody to talk to, like myself, about the things that they were into. So we all just congregated on Tumblr and had just a good old time. That being said, the first fandom I was a part of in Tumblr was Italia. Now, Italia for me was the ultimate fandom experience. I don't think I reached this level of fandom participation in any other fandom I was a part of. So, this took place from 2009 to 2012. In that span of time, I was on YouTube, looking up videos, looking up AMVs. I was reading fan fiction. I was talking to people on Tumblr about it. I was cosplaying. I had Twitter roleplay blogs. I was doing the most. I was making my own fan art, making my own fanfic. None of it got posted publicly, I don't think, because, oh boy, I'm not very talented in those areas. So I was, like, a part of, like, everything. So when that kind of died down, I got into Doctor Who. I was into Doctor Who from 2011, maybe 2010. I don't quite remember if it was, like, as I was on Tumblr or if it was, like, a little bit before. But I got into Doctor Who 2011 to, like, 2013. This one I was a part of the community. I did a lot of like Omegle role plays. That was a thing back in the day. You would get on Omegle and you would like pretend to be a character and like set up a whole scene, and it was really cute, and that's how I met actually a lot of my mutuals on Tumblr that I still have to this day. I love Doctor Who. I had Doctor Who merch. I had like posters, but the main fandom interaction for me was Tumblr. I was taking into my real life a little bit. They would have events. This group I was in, they'd have different events where we would, on a certain day, we would do things related to the fandom. So like there was an episode called Day of the Silence, I think, and the characters would put tally marks on their arms. So we put tally marks on our arms and we would wear them to school and be like, if you see another person with tally marks, they like Doctor Who. They're your friend now. So it was like that sort of feeling. And obviously from being into Doctor Who, being on that side of Tumblr, I'm sure you know where this is going, I got into Sherlock. I was into Sherlock from 2011 to 2014. I don't really have much to say that I hadn't already said about Doctor Who. Pretty much same fandom, same like sort of feel and people, a lot of Omegle role plays. I did attempt a Sally Donovan cosplay, wore that a couple times, but overall it was just me just talking to people and enjoying fandom that way. After Sherlock, I sort of skipped over Supernatural because I didn't want to like it because there was a girl who was in school with me that I would get compared to a lot, and I was like, she likes Supernatural. I don't like Supernatural. That's the difference. That's how we're different. And it's really dumb because I got into it later, but like I was never part of the fandom. So after Sherlock, I got into the podcast Welcome to Night Vale, I got into this like at the end of my like middle school, like 8th grade year, and until like high school. I loved it, obviously. That was the first podcast I ever like really listened to, and it actually took me years. Like I just got into other podcasts. Primarily for that one. I did do cosplay. I did do a lot of Femme Carlos cosplays. I was a part of a group chat sort of deal, like on Kick, about Welcome to Night Vale. That lasted about 2012 to 2016, which is when I stopped listening to it. I've been thinking about catching back up, but I stopped listening to the podcast and like fell out of the fandom. You'll see from the rest of this list that a lot of the fandoms in my Tumblr era, I stopped being a part of them in 2016 because of my like realization about how I felt about fandom, which if you want to know, I made a video about it. I'm not sure which one will be up first, but I frosted cupcakes and talked about how I feel about fandom. After that was when the first Avengers movie came out and started my obsession with Avengers and the MCU. So I got into the Avengers when the first Avengers movie came out. I saw it in theater like 3 times. I was obsessed with it. It was one of my favorite movies for a very, very, very long time. You know, being a part of the fandom, I mainly talked about it, didn't really do much else, read fanfic, looked at fan art. I fell out of this in 2016 again. After that, this was 2012 during my freshman year. I watched Interview with the Vampire for the first time, which if any of you know me, I am literally obsessed with vampires, and Interview with the Vampire is my all-time favorite movie, hands down. So easy to say that I'm still in this fandom. This is still one that I actively look at tags for on Twitter and on Tumblr. I want to take in all of the Vampire Chronicles and Interview with the Vampire fandom that I can. I haven't seen anything that's makes me mad yet. I probably will. That's just fandom for you. So I got into that 2012, so that's kind of like a current thing I'm into. After Interview with the Vampire, I got into the band Steam Powered Giraffe. This was one that I was like super into. I loved their music. I never got to see them in concert when I was like into the fandom, but I like bought merch, bought like one of their like DVDs. I made my own original characters. I cosplayed my original characters to different events. I was super into this, like super into this. I made friends within the fandom. I ended up eventually falling out of the fandom in 2015. It was a little bit of a short-lived one from 2013 to 2015, but when I was in it, I was like in it. I loved it. I took in all of the content I could, from comics to webcasts to their YouTube videos to the music to like anything I could get my hands on, any sort of lore, any sort of fan interactions, OCs, all that stuff. After that, I got into my last Tumblr era fandom, which was the Love Live fandom. For those of you who don't know, I love idol anime. I've always kind of loved idol anime, even though it's not something I watch a lot of. I love the idea of like girls coming together and like making music and being girl power, blah blah blah. I don't know. I love it. It's always kind of cheesy, but like it makes my heart really happy. I loved Love Live. I cosplayed from it. I played the phone game. I watched the series. I even watched the like spin-off that they had. Was really into that from like, was it 2015? No, 2014, 2017, I was really into that. And that brings us to our post-Tumblr era. So post-Tumblr is like what I'm currently in. It is the same thing as pre-Tumblr, where I am, you know, consuming fan works, but I'm not actively seeking out community, if that makes sense. So I'm going to read my fanfic. I'm going to look at fan art. I'm going to reblog it. I'm going to retweet it. I'm going to put it on my pages. But I don't necessarily am not seeking that community anymore. I know that people are out there who like it. If they want to reach out to me, cool. If I want to reach out to them, unlikely, but sure, I'll do it. But I'm not actively seeking that community anymore. I have it in other ways. Which brings me to my first like fandom. I don't consider it a fandom, but it is where I sought out community after Tumblr, and that is being emo and scene, or just alternative fashion in general. Coming off of Tumblr in 2017, moved to Instagram, where I started posting alternative-esque pics. I started getting really back into being emo and scene. I found community there, obviously, and that's kind of where I got my community interaction from, so I no longer needed to seek out these fandom communities for a sense of community, for a sense of belonging, because I kind of had that through the alternative scene. That being said, my first fandom in this era is Camp Camp. I got into Camp Camp 2017 and I've been in it till 2019. Love this. This is the first fandom that really set me back into looking for like AMVs. I roleplayed a little bit. I cosplayed, obviously. So I was really into that. The next fandom I got into after I got into Camp Camp was the Yuri on Ice fandom. This was short-lived considering it only had like one season. I think it still has one season, I don't know. But as it was coming out, I was watching them and I got my boyfriend really into it. I cosplayed Yurio at one convention, so I was super into that. That was short-lived. That was 2017, 2018. After that, I got into Castlevania in 2019, I believe. I'm still into this now. Cosplay from it, watch it, love it. And then my most recent fandom is the Good Omens fandom, which actually isn't recent because I read the book a long time ago, like 2010, a long time ago. Since the series on Amazon came out last year, I got super into it again, and ever since then I've been definitely reading fanfic, definitely looking at reblogging fan art. I kind of want to do a cosplay from it, but I'm not sure who I would suit the best. I was thinking maybe Beelzebub. That would be kind of fun. We'll see. But yeah, kind of went through those last ones really fast. My camera battery is about to die. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know by liking, commenting, and subscribing if you haven't. Let me know what fandoms you are into, or like what's your most embarrassing fandom. Mine is probably, I want to say Italia, just because like it was such a large portion of my life and I did a lot of things that like I'd never do these days. Never! And that's probably the fandom that has the worst rep. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!